So I'm really concerned about everything that I have been reading and hearing regarding what I call Pfizergate, the document dump that was forced on this big pharma company by a judge, essentially forced them to dump lots and lots and lots of documents that that Pfizer wanted to keep hidden for 75 years. Pfizer and the FDA. Nothing says trust the science like you can't see our documents for 75 years. So there's this incredible woman named Dr. Naomi Wolf, who she, along with a number of volunteers, are doing a deep dive into the Pfizer document dump. Every month, Pfizer's dumping, God only knows how many thousands of pages, pretty much all kind of random to make it very difficult for people to actually figure out what exactly belongs where and what's going on here and all that. And I've been in touch with these people. I've had a number of them on as guests on our program here, Spotlight on Wimpkin social media. And in talking with one of the main people overseeing this, Amy Kelly, she said there's this woman in Houston who is not a scientist, but is a very valuable member of our team. And we're talking roughly 3,000 volunteers all across the world. This is a big deal, let me tell you. And I said, well, she's not a scientist. She's not a biologist. What does she do? And Amy essentially said she kind of makes sure everything works right, because that's really what her strength is. And I said, all right, fine. So I reached out to her. Let me tell you a little bit about her, and then I'll introduce you to her, and then we'll just sit back and listen to her story. Her name is Diane Biegel. She is a native Texan and lived in Houston most of her life. Self-employed since the 90s. She was an IT and operations professional until transitioning to real estate more than 20 years ago. So by the way, if you want to buy a really, really, really nice property in Texas, at least the greater Houston area, go to Diane Biegel. Tell her Dimitri sent you. Maybe she'll give me a kickback. You never know, for a referral fee. She's been deeply involved in researching COVID and the government response since late 2020. So let's welcome her officially here to Spotlight on Wimpkin. So Diane, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you. Welcome to my kitchen.
Thank you. It's great to be a part of it. I appreciate it. So how on earth does a Houston real estate broker get involved with Pfizergate?
Well, I was scared to death in 2020 of COVID. Have a husband, have children, and I was very frightened until my youngest got COVID in August, and it was not a big deal because she's 20 and healthy. And so that helped kind of chill me out a little bit. I was very pro lockdown. I couldn't wait for the vaccine. And then something in me just clicked, and I started really getting interested in the vaccine because I knew that my other daughter, my eldest, was planning on taking it, was very pro-vaccine, my husband, etc. And I started doing research, and it was mind-blowing. Even at the end of 2020, they were introduced December in 2020, and so it was mind-blowing what I found that early on. And I had researched vaccines for my kids, like the Gardasil, looking at the adverse event system, VAERS, years ago. So I was familiar with that. And all you need to do is go to that adverse event system and see what's already there. It's really mind-blowing. So I guess, so where I went from there was, a friend of mine got the vax in March, and 4 days later, she should be dead. Thank God she's not. She ended up having pulmonary embolism, which is clots in her lungs, in her legs. And I just said, this thing's bad news.
My goodness. So you've had some other deaths in your life connected with this. Tell us about that, please.
Well, I think so. I think if you get online and search "died suddenly and unexpectedly," and don't use Google because it'll censor that search, you're going to see a whole lot of people, including a whole lot of young people. And people just normally don't die in their sleep when the night before they were healthy. That just doesn't happen. Babies don't have strokes and heart attacks. And it's actually happening. And these, the athletes, I mean, how many times have we seen these athletes just, face planting on the field, especially soccer, because it's a 45-minute, run. And it's just amazing what is happening. If you look at, suddenly and unexpectedly, those are the key words you always see.
Yeah. Now, my understanding, you had another friend who died, and you think maybe it was connected with the vaccine. Is that right?
Yes. My brother texted me and he said, "This is unbelievable." He goes, "It's just unbelievable." I mean, people, this is the problem. It's so hard to correlate, cause of death and vaccine when many times you don't know if they were vaccinated, but pretty much you can assume who was. Because in my circles, people vaccinated to travel. And this is back in the beginning. And in my circles, being an older, most of them vaccinated, I think. And I just lost 2 people last week who heretofore were, fine. And they just, never woke up.
Well, don't bury the lead. You lost 2
Oh,
people last week. Well, explain.
well, I just a younger woman in her 50s who went from 0 to stage 4 cancer. Kind of, why did that happen? Is there some sort of immune system issue that the shots cause, where your system's not killing cancer cells, which we're doing every day in a normal immune system? And then another friend, fell, had hip surgery, and then died after that, heart attack.
My goodness. And you think you could make the case that the vaccination played a role, maybe a major role in each one of these? I realize you're not a doctor, but
No, it's not being a doctor. I don't know the circumstances. It's just how many people. If you think, just how many people do you know? How many people did I know that died from COVID? 0, none. How many people did I know who were injured, had a heart attack? My 40-year-old neighbor had a massive MI, myocardial infarction. He has 4 young children. He's 40 years old. He goes, "I don't know why that happened. I have no heart disease in my family." And I'm going, yeah. And I said, you were vaccinated, weren't you? So-and-so. And he goes, "Well, yeah, but," and I said, "Yeah, well, that could have something to do with it." So
my goodness gracious.
yeah.
Now, did you bring that up to him? Did you bring that up to him?
I did.
And how did he respond?
People who have been vaccinated have a huge amount of cognitive dissonance, right? They were trying to do the right thing, or they wanted to travel or whatever, or they needed to get this, they were mandated for their job. So the idea of taking a novel substance injected into your body and then having it harm you is cognitive dissonance, right? So many of them are still kind of in denial about that. And I think that's why we have such a divide in our country, actually, in a lot of cases.
When you say cognitive dissonance, is that denial? Is that what the word means?
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, you're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to save grandma, help the community through getting vaccinated, because that's what you were manipulated into thinking. You do it for a bevy of reasons, and then something horrible happens to you, like a heart attack with the Widowmaker, the left side. And there goes my AirPod. So yeah,
you can put it back on. It's okay.
It's on the floor somewhere. Hang on.
Take your time. Not a problem. This is just going to be part of
my left ear and my AirPod. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great. So you were going on.
Yeah. I think that so many people are in denial if they've had any kind of adverse reaction to the jabs.
Yeah.
And that's, I get that.
All right. So to be clear, You and everyone in your family got the vaccine and the booster shots or not?
No, I did not get anything.
Okay.
So I'm considered a pure blood, right? Eldest daughter got 2 Modernas and a booster, which is 3 times the dose of Pfizer. Made me sick. Uh, Yet youngest daughter has 2 Pfizers, and husband had 2 Pfizers and no boosters.
In light of what you've discovered, and we're going to go into that, you and all the
Yeah.
others working with Dr. Naomi Wolf,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about that this morning as we're recording this interview?
About them being vaccinated?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, your family, your loved ones being vaccinated.
it scared the hell out. They think I'm crazy. And I am so worried about my girls being able to have children. I am so worried that who knows what is going to happen medium and long term. Uh, my husband's an older like me. What damage has been done to his body? No, it's mind blowing because I really think this is a damaging shot.
Okay. When did you start changing your opinion about this? Was there one defining moment where it was
Yeah.
like you were all in? Oh, CDC, great. And Dr. Anthony Fauci, great. And I hate that guy. And the
Yeah.
NIH and the World Health Organization. Oh, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm all in. And then did something happen? Was there one moment where you went like, oh, shit, something's, got to take a look at this?
Well, I was going to wait anyway. So then when my friend in March of 21 had the bilateral pulmonary embolisms, that just, I just went into major, major research mode. And, I realized that the trials were rushed. Most vaccines take, 10 years to develop. And the animal trials that were very, very rushed happened concurrent with the human trials, which I don't think has ever been done before. And then, after the trials started, I'm talking about Pfizer because we're seeing all this, they unblinded. That is, the people who had gotten just saline, the placebo group, the control group, they ended up vaccinating them. So it's really hard to do a clinical trial when you don't have a control group anymore.
Why did they do that? Why did Pfizer do that?
They say that they had a moral imperative because COVID was killing everybody, which, so, and if you look at 2020 and you look at who died, the average age is 81 still in 2020. So it was people, who were already older. And what does that mean? When you're older, once you get older, like you and me, your immune system weakens. And then ultimately we all die, right? So I don't know.
All right. So was there any one moment where you lost your faith in the CDC, the NIH, Dr. Fauci, or the World Health Organization? Was there any thing like that? Maybe something you saw on TV or something that you read or something that just smacked you right in the face and said, wait a minute, we're being handed a bunch of propaganda here.
No, had I just watched TV and gone to, your standard media outlets, it's safe and effective, right? And the WHO is great and the CDC is fabulous and all that. It just got worse and worse. The more I found out, the worse it got. And what I found and what kind of blew me away was that the US, the CDC and the FDA were hiding data. And so we had to go to Israel, which was all Pfizer. They were major percentage vaxxed. We had to go to the UK. They had great data, as did Israel, on who took the vaccine, what, they had it by age, and then then you started looking at injury and death. And and numbers don't lie, and dead bodies don't lie. And it just, you're just peeling this onion and finding this data that's telling you the truth. And it just got worse and worse. I think, though, when I really kicked into high gear was in the fall, when they were vaccinating pregnant women, even though the manufacturers say this has never been tested on a pregnant woman. And the rule of thumb is pregnant women shouldn't even take Advil or drink alcohol or eat deli meat. But let's do something that's never been done and inject it into your body. And then they started doing the kids. They started vaccinating the children, and I just couldn't handle it. And I went to the adverse event reporting system, and 8 years old, this horrible, horrible adverse events. And it
I'm
was
sorry,
just
adverse event reporting system. Give us a background on that, please.
okay. It's
what is
called
that?
VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS. And it's a CDC FDA system that they never have improved. Gee, wonder why. So it's super, okay, this isn't working. Super old, back in the 80s. It's a COBOL legacy system, they call it, right? So it's horribly difficult to use. But you could go through, and mostly it has been used for childhood vaccines, to report any adverse events, from, oh, my arm's sore, to I got hives, anaphylaxis. Then you have your heart attacks, strokes, and things of this nature. And it also, so the rule of thumb is anybody can report to VAERS, a patient, a family member, a doctor, anybody. And if there is something that happens after a vaccine, it's not like you have to prove it. It's a signaling system that we have to say, hey guys, there's something rotten in Denmark. In other words, we keep getting all these signals from adverse events being reported. We need to look into this. And so I was looking at it. My partners were looking at it. There's all these volunteers all over the world, thousands of us who have been doing this work. And we're looking at this, just crying at reading these reports, because there's all this narrative stuff, and you have these little bitties, 12 years old is little to me, and stuff like that. And it's just heartbreaking, and frightening. And we come to find very recently, a friend of mine in Israel FOIA'd, Freedom of Information Act request, Pfizer or the CDC, excuse me, and learned that they weren't looking at theirs. They weren't monitoring safety signals. Whoa.
What?
Yeah, that just happened.
Do you by any chance have a copy of that document?
I do. I mean, not on me.
Oh, okay.
Not right this minute, but
all right. If you could send that to me, I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to see that. So
yeah, he writes a Substack is a writer's, like Medium or anything, or Locals. He writes a Substack, and his name is Josh Getzko, and he is a great research guy over in Jerusalem.
Okay, terrific. And I understand that Jerusalem was pretty much the national guinea pig for Pfizer, that Pfizer said, okay, we're going to pick Israel, and Israel was all in on this and said, we're going to make you the first one, the first country, the first test. Apparently the head of Pfizer is somehow connected with Israel in some sort of way. He just won an award, I think, from Israel. And
this was the best thing for Pfizer ever. They literally had an entire country of only Pfizer. And he said, watch what they say, because they tell the truth. He said, this is just great. It's like our big experiment.
Exactly.
No kidding. And I mean, those people have been shot and boosted and boosted and shot. And, and again, the data speak for themselves.
Was there one piece of data that you discovered that caused you to lose your mind? There was like, the one 12-year-old or the one 6-month-old or the one pregnant woman. Was there one thing that was more than, it was
Over the
like
top, yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
outrageous?
Um, there's so much. It's really hard to keep your mind doing this. I mean, a normal empathetic person, this is very difficult. And the only thing that keeps one like me sane, if you will, some would question that, are my counterparts. And in our groups, we support each other a great deal. I mean, a medical doctor and I were looking at injuries last fall, and we have a Wikipedia that we're building as well, trying to keep all this data, out there for people to access, potentially for lawsuits, etc. And you're reading these, and we're trading this, and I'm making lists. Serious adverse events, ages 10 to 12. Death, ages 10 to 12. That was one of the lists I made.
Mike, how many
I actually,
people were on that list? Deaths ages 10 to 12. 2, 3?
just one, but it was just a couple of months into it.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, but that's the kind of stuff we did. And then other things, there's nobody telling us what to do. You see what I'm saying? It's not like there's this, person on high who's saying, okay, let's research this, let's research that. So basically what we do, these groups are all in chat places, and, we curate the news. And then we go down a rabbit hole sometimes. God, this looks interesting. What's going on here? And so it's sort of like a pinball machine ball. I mean, you're literally going from subject to subject and looking at things. I mean, I did a deep dive on Harris County autopsies, which are public data. I live in Houston, which is Harris County, which is the third largest county in the United States. And I grabbed 13 January autopsies and found one, I would say 98% vaccine injury of a medical worker because they were vaccinated in December 1st. And you'll never guess, in her 40s, never woke up.
My goodness gracious. Did you talk to the health department in Harris County about that?
They prefer not to talk about that.
Really? My goodness.
Oh, no. This is, I'm telling you, this doesn't exist. And you have people who are truly disabled and injured, and especially the women who tend to be, I think there's more women are injured than men, disabled wise. And, it's all in your head stuff.
Really? Even now? Even
now. And I mean, if you go to any of these Facebook wiped off the chat group of 250,000 injured because they were just, they nuked them because they don't exist, because this is a safe and effective shot.
250. Hold on.
I think it was like 250K. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to make sure that I understand this. Facebook eliminated a group of 250,000 people who were discussing the adverse effects of
and
the
using
vaccines.
And using it for emotional support and where to get help. And where can I find a doctor who will believe me? Where can I find a doctor who can detox me from this vaccine? I mean,
my God.
Yeah.
Where did the group go to? Where did the group go to?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Wow, I'd love to have them join
a guy I work with mentioned that in one of his Substack articles a long time ago. So
my goodness. Well,
that number, I may inflate that number. I don't know, but it seemed like it was a whole boatload of people.
My goodness. Help me understand, how is Mark Zuckerberg not in prison? How is this guy not in prison?
Well, I mean, name your name. This is to me, Dr. Richard Fleming calls it crimes against humanity, and he's on the road doing his tour called Crimes Against Humanity.
Dr. Zev Zelenko, the same thing. They don't hold back at all. They're saying this is that damn serious. Dr. Naomi Wolf was using the G word, genocide. I mean, the scope of this thing is mind-boggling. I tell
Yeah.
people, this may be the first you've heard of this, but I tell people, all of our friends and followers on Wimkin social media, that I believe this story that I call Pfizergate, although it includes Moderna and
Yeah.
Johnson and Johnson, and all the rest, this whole thing with
Yeah.
the COVID vaccine, is the biggest story, in my opinion, in my lifetime. Bigger than the fall of the Soviet Union without a shot being fired, bigger than
Right.
man landing on the moon and coming back safely to Earth, because this
I
has
was there for that. Yeah.
oh, that's right, Houston, that's right. This has directly affected literally billions of people in
Mhm.
virtually every country in the world. A story doesn't get bigger than that unless an asteroid destroys the entire planet. I mean, this is big, 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 big stuff. And
You're
yet
right.
you've got the corporate media essentially not talking about this whatsoever, trying to shut down any discourse with this. And I'm going,
Right.
I can't believe what I'm watching here on a daily basis and talking
Right.
with people like you. It's like, oh my God. And we still don't know everything. And this is only
Oh,
one company
no, no.
with Pfizer.
Well, and I think it, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is that the Trusted News Initiative started in 2019, and basically, if you look at your TV networks, your newspapers, New York Times, Washington Post, et al., they're just parroting each other.
Yes.
Safe and effective. Get your booster. Get your booster. Then they made the unvaccinated the evil ones, and you shouldn't get medical care and die mofo. I mean, the stuff that was out on social on
Oh, this
unvaccinated
just happened in
was
Canada. This just happened in Canada.
mhm.
There was a court ruling where a judge said it was okay to not give a patient needing
Right,
a transplant the transplant because that patient was not vaccinated. A judge said
right,
that's okay. This just happened.
right. So you need a transplant. So why don't we give you an injection of a novel, untested drug when you're in organ failure? Okay, that sounds like a capital idea.
Yeah, no question.
It's just nuts. But
Yeah.
but that's the thing. I mean, everybody has been manipulated. So if you're just a regular guy who watches the Today Show and then comes home and watches the evening news, all you know is the vaccines are safe and effective. You have a 50% of dying from COVID when you have really a 0.000 fill in the blank depending on your age. And, you know, and save grandma and do good for the community. It's kind of like the mask thing or anything else. I mean, masks don't work. There's tons of random control trials that prove that. And why would you restrict oxygen on a child or anybody else?
Yeah, it's monstrous. So, walk me through what is it like being one? I guess there are what 6 different teams connected with this effort with Dr. Naomi Wolf and Amy Kelly and the rest. So, are you on one team like Wolf Team 3 or something like
Yeah.
that? And
I
what's it
yeah,
like? Mhm.
I started just as a regular volunteer in one of the groups. They basically give you every month, they assign, if your first name starts with this letter, we want you to look at these pages in these documents. The dumping of documents started, I think, in March of this year, between 55 and 80,000 pages a month. And they're print pages, they're PDF files. So there's it's nearly impossible to analyze it. So you have to pull that data out and put it in formats where you could actually work with the data and look at it, and sort it and filter. So I started just as a regular volunteer, and I just got a promotion to Team 5, which does a lot of publishing and analysis.
Well, congratulations on the promotion.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're going to double your salary, right?
That exactly. It's going to
Mhm.
go from 0 to 0 times 2.
There you go. Great. So, walk me through your typical day now. Help us here in flyover country who have no idea about all of this stuff with science and math and biology and DNAs and mRNAs and all this and all that. Walk me through a typical day and what you do trying to uncover the truth with these this Pfizer document dump?
Okay. Well, the Pfizer thing, to be honest, I mean, I'm waiting for others who are stat mathy people to kind of come up with, hey, look at this, look at that, because they're a lot more qualified at manipulating the data and analyzing it, frankly, than I am. But it's that the kind of thing, a typical day is more than just Pfizer documents, is what I'm trying to say. A typical day, I go into all my chats, I do catch up, I look at things that people have raised, articles they've brought to the fore, and it might be something I'm personally interested in, so I'll go figure that out. A good example of that was at the first of this year, 2022, January, like New Year's Day, even, I think, there was an article about an insurance company executive who said that the life insurance hits, the deaths, were 40% higher in second and third quarter 21 than they were in any other year prior to COVID in 18 to 64-year-old working people. 40% higher. That's the kind of thing where somebody brought it to my attention. I think it was my friend in Switzerland. He posted in the chat. I go, holy moly. And everybody jumps on it and starts making sure the article was correct. We go back to find the source video, any source articles where this guy actually said it, did that. It's true. And again, that's the kind of thing that you just jump all over because it is so shocking.
Yeah. Now
Okay.
let me play the devil's advocate. I know you're
Okay.
super smart and you've got an
Thanks.
incredible pedigree and all that. I mean, I've done my homework on you. So let me play the devil's advocate. How do you know that guy is telling the truth? For example, if this were a newspaper, you're the reporter and I'm the editor, I would go to you. Well, did you contact the ABC insurance company where this guy works at to see if in fact he is telling the truth? And for that matter, did you contact other life insurance companies to see if this is an outlier or if this is part of a pattern? So tell me about that.
That is a great question because you've got to vet these and you've got to look at confounding factors and what's really going on. And so what is really interesting about the whole life and disability insurance industry is that they're required to report quarterly to the states that they're headquartered in. Okay. So they're reporting on what they paid out for deaths and what they paid out for disabilities. Their highest cost are those plans with working people who are given life and disability as part of their benefits. So again, everybody in his group, it's been reported. I contacted a Wall Street Journal reporter who writes on the life insurance industry. We worked together a little bit and shared some research. And Liberty Mutual came out with the same kind of figures as well. So there are people. Edward Dowd is bless his heart, he lives in Maui. He's really brought this up. He's an ex hedge fund guy with BlackRock, and he's the one who said, you can't hide the dead bodies. Look at these numbers from the life insurance industry. So there's a number of groups, I will say, that are working on that exact issue. Looking
Excellent.
looking at the deaths. And again, you cannot hide the dead bodies.
Yeah,
and you can't hide the fact that these insurance companies are, really taking a hit because they expect X deaths per year per age group, and they're getting X plus 40%.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if your organization, if your Wolf Team 3 or whatever, or whoever this guy is with, if they can this group can come up with some really solid evidence saying the major life insurance companies in America or throughout the world, wherever, are experiencing this as per these insurance companies with their quarterly reporting. Now, I would think that would be something. It's not about biology. It's not about chemistry. It's not about this stuff. Even I would understand that.
Right.
And if I can understand that, certainly my friends and followers would understand that. And we'd go, holy moly, this is, I mean, when the life insurance companies are saying lots more dead people, folks, that's something that is we can really latch onto and go, holy cow. Well, why are we having so many more dead people? Well, the big spike started right after all these vaccinations and boosters and everything else. So it doesn't take
the reason we're mandates. That's why we had the big spikes in Q2 and Q3. Remember? June, July mandates. So it explains a lot. So if you look at COVID killing elderly people, 80 plus average, and then you look at the shots and they're taking out the younger people. It's crazy.
No question. Have you run into this? This is something that I had brought up many times on my talk show, and that is that the hospitals were motivated to say that virtually, and I'm exaggerating to make a point, that the hospitals were motivated to say that virtually every death was somehow either COVID or, and the key phrase here is COVID related, so that they could somehow justify getting much more money from the federal government, ventilators or whatever. Health departments as well, because they could get more funds coming into those respective counties if they would somehow say, in fact, I'll tell you this. I interviewed one health department official, a lovely nurse, a great lady in West Virginia and in the Northern Panhandle. Lovely person, health department official spokesperson. And I said to her, looking over these numbers, and I was actually asked about COVID related. What the hell does that mean? And she said, well, if there's any kind of COVID connected with the death, then it's COVID related. I said, okay, let me ask you this. I'm driving. I'm in a car wreck. I die. You do the autopsy, and in the course of this autopsy, you discover that, oh, Dimitri, there's a trace of COVID. He had COVID at one point, or maybe he had the sniffles because he had COVID or whatever, but somehow in the autopsy, oh, there's COVID. Are you telling me that you would list that as a COVID-related death? And without missing a beat, she said yes. Do you think that's atypical, or is this what's happening nationwide?
No, it's happening nationwide. Hospitals get reimbursed. They get reimbursed for using the CDC protocol, which includes remdesivir, which is a deadly drug. They get paid for that. They get paid for ventilation. They get paid. So there's all kinds of things. For deaths by COVID, there's a certain payment schedule from the feds that the hospitals get. I saw a webinar yesterday that comes on Thursday nights, the vacsafety.org, vacsafety.org. I literally had to stop it. I was crying so hard.
What did you see that made you cry so hard?
Talking about, it was a man talking about losing his perfectly healthy wife because she got COVID, got in bad shape, got pneumonia, and was hospitalized, and effectively the hospital protocol killed her. And it was just heartbreaking. So when you start treating people by protocol, not by what they need, not by what works, by protocol.
Okay, you're gonna again.
It's just crazy,
Diane. I barely got through high school. What does that mean? Treated by protocol? Is that a drug? The protocol drug?
No.
What is that?
When you go in with COVID or with a COVID issue like post-COVID, pneumonia, which happens, then you're under the protocol, and that's how they treat you. They don't use a multi-drug approach that most doctors who understand this would use at the beginning to handle any COVID illness. Okay. So you're in the hospital and they're doing the CDC protocol, and that's one, how they get reimbursed. But they're also, the doctors are hamstrung. they're now employees of hospitals by and large. So they have to follow these protocols for treating a COVID patient or with someone with some sort of COVID
So
disease.
the government, the CDC, the NIH, whatever, they have these rules that have to
Mhm.
be followed if they want to get, if the hospitals want to get reimbursed with COVID money. And so the doctors essentially have no
Yeah.
choice. And the hospitals want to get this money coming in, and the patient, well, too bad. It sucks being the patient.
It does. It does. And that's what I understand. There was a doctor on this podcast. She's actually here in Houston. Her name is Mary Bowden, Bowden. And, I think she sees that. And they were talking about that. They had a couple of guests who had lost their spouses, one who almost was killed herself. It was a whole hospital protocol show, but it was just fascinating.
My goodness.
Um,
And they
and,
allowed
and,
it,
and
and this was allowed to be on TV. Was it PBS or who
Oh, no,
allowed?
no, 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 no. Of course not. No, it's a webinar. It was a webinar like we're
Oh,
doing
I'm
here.
sorry,
Yeah,
I misunderstood. All right,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So like today, will you be going online again today, going through more of this document dump of Pfizer? And do you? I know you're super well organized. That's one of your key strengths.
You
So
should,
how
yeah. I
how do you?
organize by piles, just piles of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You save that for somebody who hasn't done his homework on you. So tell me now, what's the key in the way that you help all of this stuff flow back and forth? Because you play a key role, even though you're not a scientist, you're not a doctor, you're not a biologist or whatever, but you understand technology, you understand organization. So how do you do it to help the flow work, to make it most effective for all these volunteers?
Okay, there are thousands of us, and I'm just one. And I'm kind of the organizer or traffic cop with these disparate groups. It's not just Naomi's group. I mean, the life insurance situation is our other groups are working on that, for example. So I kind of stick my nose into lots of these different projects. One, so we don't have a lot of duplication of effort, right, among these groups, and so we could share. Naomi shares with another group I'm in, so
Right,
we're
right. But
sharing.
what do you do? What is your role as the traffic cop? Help us understand why. I know being a traffic cop is super important, especially when you have tons of documents. So walk me through what you do as a traffic cop to make it just work and flow that much better, to avoid information gridlock. There you go.
Okay. Well, again, we're talking about, I'm not sure how many pages are this month, but let's say 55,000 pages of random stuff on purpose, I think. But yeah. So that entails who's going to grab this random data file of thousands of pages and pick the data off and put it into a form that an analyst can analyze. That's okay. And then who's doing that? And oh, by the way, we saw this document. It looks interesting. We need to pick that data off because there's so many pages. You can't just go page by page and read it. You have to put it in, an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can actually do stuff with it and say, oh my gosh, look at this. There were, X patients, subjects, and 40% of them left the study, and there's all these fuzzy reasons. That kind of analysis is what you do. So I just sort of help people get that done. Josh in Israel is working differently than Amy with Naomi's group is working differently and looking for different things. We all have the same ultimate goal, but people are doing different things, but everybody wants this data in a format that they could use it.
Okay. And that is in your wheelhouse. You're real good at that stuff.
Well, I'm not real. I have people who are real good at that, and I can identify them.
Okay, so you know how to get it to people who are really good at this stuff and
Yeah,
that stuff,
I'm
which
more
is
of a
a
project manager type than a
okay.
than a worker bee.
All right. So you see the big picture and you know how to get it to the right people to make stuff happen. That is, well, in a way, that's sort of like being a broker at a major real estate company, I imagine. having great
Yeah.
agents and all that. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a good analogy. I don't know. All right, now, I is there? I know we're pressed for time. I mean, we have a time limit for this interview, and we've reached about that limit. So, what I'd like to do is say to you now that I always give my guest the last word to speak directly to our friends, our followers, our viewers, the audience, America, the world, whoever is going to watch this. Presumably, everybody will at some point because it's that darn good. So, I don't know what I don't know. So maybe I should have asked you one or two or three or 59 different things that, frankly, I just didn't even think to ask. So this is a really good time because I always give my guests the last word. This is a really good time for you to bring up any of those points if there in fact are any. Also to maybe repeat key points that you made and you want to just emphasize for our public. Maybe you made a misstatement and it's a great opportunity for you to correct something, or probably more likely to correct something I said. And also to tell people how to, or what to do, a call to action. Maybe have them follow you on social media. Maybe have them contact you in Houston there. Maybe do this, maybe do that, maybe donate to the cause, maybe volunteer. Who the heck knows? In other words, I'm effectively going to hand you my camera and microphone for you to say anything you want to anyone you want without me being a gatekeeper, without me being in the way. So I'm going to step aside now and give you the last word. You can speak as long as you want, say anything you want. So, dear Diane, my camera and microphone are yours.
Well, thanks. I would say to our audience that do your own research and ignore the pejoratives when they call you an anti-vaxxer or you're not a doctor and you're not a microbiologist, you're not a chemist. Do your own research. You have a brain, you could read. Okay. So employ that brain. Quit using big tech to look for stuff. We use Google like we use Kleenex, right? Google's now a verb to search the internet. Quit using Google. They're censoring your results. Find another search engine and look for this information. Do not vaccinate our children. They have statistically zero risk of dying from COVID. It is all harm and no benefit. And there goes my ear pod. I need to get my ears fixed. And understand that you've been manipulated by the media, by big tech, by your own government. And you were trying to do the right thing. We all have been trying to do the right thing to save grandma and grandpa, all that stuff. But they went about this all wrong. And we have now these shots. And unfortunately, I'm afraid that the outcome from these injections is going to be really bad for some of the vaccinated individuals in our country and worldwide. We vaccinated over 5 billion people with experimental gene therapy. Wow. That's it.
If people want to get in touch with you, if they want to follow you or follow Naomi Wolf or to volunteer, they want to do something. They want to do something.
Yeah.
What can they do, Diane?
To get to Naomi's group, her website is called dailyclout.io. DAILY clout, CLOUT.io. And then you go to campaigns. And these are the Pfizer dump is a campaign. And you'll see a picture, you click on it, and there's a volunteer form and explicit instructions to get involved. And then you join a chat group that's associated with your first name, basically, because that's the group you're looking at. I quit using Facebook for a number of reasons. I'm on Twitter. I'm at DDI 2009 at Twitter. It's not very exciting, but I do try to be informative until they suspend me. And yeah, I think Daily Clout's a good place to start. And go to Substack. There are some great writers, many of who were banned by Twitter, who are doing some really, really interesting work regarding the entire lockdown, mass vaccines, uh, and analyzing data from various countries. And again, these people, are linking to real papers and real data, that are legit. And you can find out a lot on your own. And just don't trust the mainstream media on this stuff.
Fantastic. Diane Biegel, thank you so much for your time, so much for your passion, so much for your energy and helping to get the word out here to help make a difference. And I tell a lot of these people who I've interviewed, starting with Naomi and many others, the work that you're doing, I truly, honest to God, believe is to help save the human race. I don't say that lightly. I think that's the kind of work you are really doing to save the human race. Try to wrap your mind around that one. So thank you so much, Diane, for everything. I appreciate it greatly. We're going to end this recording. It's going to air within our live stream episode of Spotlight on Wimpkin. But I'm going to ask you to hold over because I want to ask you a couple questions about how to get in touch with some of these other people to see if maybe I could have them maybe come on the show as well. So again, my thanks to you and to all of the other volunteers. You're doing great work, and we're more than happy to have you back on for any reason. Just get in touch with me and say, hey, we discovered this, we discovered that, we want to get the word out. The answer is automatically yes. We will get you back on. We will record this. We'll put it on Wimpkin social media, give you the link. You can spread throughout the world, whatever you want to do with it. The answer with me is always yes. If you need anything to help amplify your voice, the answer is automatically yes. Just get in touch with me. We get you on like that. Okay?
Great.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Thanks.